you can see things are happening. Doug Burgum saying the same, saying inflation's going down. Stock market was a little rough yesterday, but doing much better today as the markets are settling down. Lots of skittish people and relax. It's going to be fine. Calm down. And that, of course, is where we're going. Here's Doug Burgum, Commerce, explaining.
The excitement that is here at this conference, and people are bullish on America. Yeah. They see that there's a renaissance that's occurring in our country. We're bringing back manufacturing. We're going to be back in the mining business. We're going to be back in the manufacturing business. The enthusiasm here is palpable, and the excitement.
Lots of enthusiasm, which is what we like to hear. And there's more. Even Rubio said, look, today was a good day for peace yesterday. Thanks to POTUS and their leadership under the gracious hospitality of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, we are now one step closer to restoring a durable peace for Ukraine, and the ball is now in Russia's court. And there were several clips here from Rubio on this one. Yesterday, he said this morning, times are a little bit off. He said this in conjunction with Mike Waltz, explaining that the Ukrainians have accepted the deal. Now it's up to the Russians.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process. We're very grateful to them for hosting us here today, and hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball's now in their court. But again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate today.
All right, so a little bit of Rubio there. One more from Rubio. This was from this morning, saying, we'll talk to the Russians today. Different contacts are already happening, but we might see some developments on this.
So the Russians are still making gains on the battlefield. There's been no public response to the developments in Jeddah. Are you concerned they're playing for time? Have you had any contact with them? What's been their response officially? And are they willing to accept the ceasefire unconditionally?
We don't know the answer to the last question. That's what we want to know, whether they're prepared to do it unconditionally. We'll have contact with them today. There's already been contacts at different levels with counterparts, different members of the administration, and that'll continue. But as far as the Russian reaction to it, that's really the question here. And that is, this is a few hours old. We're going to bring it to them directly. We're going to say that Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin the immediate process of negotiating an enduring end to the war. And we'll see what their response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear. That's what we're hoping to hear from them. And obviously, as I said, that this was not prearranged for them. They're probably processing the news the same as the rest of the world is. So we hope to have a positive answer from them. The ball is truly in their court.
All right, so we'll see what happens. It would be nice to have an end to the war and move on to more pressing matters rather than this just brutal, blood-filled battle over miles, essentially. That is one update from Rubio. Now, Victoria Spartz, who was born in Ukraine, was on with Matt Gaetz, of course, on the Matt Gaetz show, and she was explaining that Zelensky's not legitimate. Here's what she said.
Do you think that when this is over, President Zelensky will keep power?
And if Ukrainian people are stupid enough to elect him again, then they probably will lose the rest of the country as soon as President Trump is not president. So that's a decision for them to make. But if they continue electing bad leaders, they will continue fail. And Putin knows that. He understands what's going on and he take advantage of the situation. He had very weak president here in the United States. Biden, he knew what Biden was. He was vice president under Obama when they said blanket, and he knew that there was opportunity, and then he had corrupt and weak president of Ukraine. So that's why he moved. And unfortunately, only strength can deter aggression, and only have strong military and strong country will help Ukraine to deter Russia from and have peace, but that will depend on the people.
Do you think that—
Interesting take. So in other words, Putin will just do this deal with Trump. They'll have Zelensky, then Zelensky will stay in power. Then as soon as Trump leaves, Zelensky will get up to his old antics again, and Putin will get up to his old antics again, and then boom, we'll be right back to where we started. All right, so only Trump, who brings in some actual strength, can rectify these situations in only the Trump way that he can do these things. Now, here was just a short snippet. I just wanted to share this from Bernie. He's been around for a long time. Colin Rugg had a great post. He says, Bernie Sanders has been alive for the Cuban Missile Crisis, 9/11 attacks, but now this is objectively the scariest time of his entire life. Okay, Bernie.
But there was also like there was a gravity in your voice and a sense that, in a way that I maybe hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that.
These are the scariest times in my lifetime. That's all. I think that's objectively the truth. It is not just they want to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs for working people. Frankly,
You've been saying that your whole career. Okay.
but you combine
What is
that with the power of the oligarchy in general. You combine that with Mr. Musk owning Twitter and
X.
able to send out his messages to hundreds of millions of people.
You mean Zuckerberg did when he was banning conservatives on Facebook? A much bigger, more global platform than X ever was? Where were you on that one, Bernie?
You combine that with the fact that people like Bezos, the second wealthiest person in the country,
Yeah, who was on your side for a long time until you guys went nuts.
fired or got rid of most of his editorial staff and is going to convert him into a right-wing thing.
It's not a right-wing thing. He's talking about free markets and freedom, which are American values. It's not right-wing, Bernie. He's getting rid of the communists and the socialists who were on there, who were Democratic hacks. But you can see wild conversation. I've not heard this tone and severity in your voice, Bernie. Can you tell me? Yes, I'm going to tell you all the same crap I've been saying for 50, 60 years. It's really pathetic, but they've got no other shtick to play. Okay, that's his shtick. What else is he going to say? All right, so that's Bernie. Now, Brooke Rollins was also out. She works over as the Secretary of Agriculture, and she was explaining the American dream is coming, baby, especially for our great farmers who feed us.
The president is so focused on not the short term, which, as we all know, in politics, everyone's always worried about the short term. He truly wants to fix America so that we have the American dream for everyone in a way that we lost in the last 4 years. And until Trump won, we lost for a long time.
Yeah.
So this is really the reality where we are today. But I think Kevin's vision that it's going to be a little bumpy for a few weeks, but once we move into second quarter, we'll see a turnaround through deregulation, through lower taxes, through less government, through a focus on private enterprise and free markets versus a focus on bigger government spending, which is what we had in the last administration.
And it's like a little bit of a detox period. We got to make some changes at the higher level. That will cause some perturbations in society, and we will adjust and recover. Now, Kristi Noem, DHS, was also on with Will Cain yesterday, explaining that the cartels are already partnering with China.
Secretary, so they're flying drones, from what I understand, cartel members on the Mexican side to surveil the border, I assume to see where you're deploying assets, and then they can engineer where to funnel either human trafficking or drugs. What can be done? I'm curious, what can you do? Can you shoot these drones down? How do you stop this?
We're exploring all opportunities that we have, but that's exactly what they're doing, Will, is they're using their drones to spot where officers are, where we have assets and resources, and then diverting their activities to different locations. So we're doubling down on the amount of people and agents that we have there. Also what we can do in defensive measures to counteract what they're doing, but also using our own technology in ways to interdict their drones, but also to shut them down, potentially take control of them and land them ourselves. We'll use all of those opportunities to make sure that we're on top of it. But that's one thing that I think the American public needs to realize, and that everyone needs to grasp a hold of, is that technology isn't just on the good guys' side, that the bad guys are using it too. And once they use drones to identify where resources are, we look at how other ways they may be able to use drones. Would they weaponize them? Would they use them in partnership with other organizations? My concern has always been that we don't just have the cartels operating in a much more sophisticated manner. They're also building partnerships with other enemies of the United States of America. We see them partnering with the Chinese individuals and laundering money. And people who hate America will partner together in order to do damage to us and to infiltrate our country too.
Yeah, and I wonder where some of that equipment and that technology comes from, because I was listening to Tucker and he had Cuomo on, and they got into it over whether weapons from Ukraine were ending up in other regions around the world, like in Asia and perhaps even at our own border, at the southern border. In other words, the cartels are siphoning off a portion of the equipment that we are funding and using it against us. Genius. which makes sense because we like to fund both sides of many conflicts because as long as we can sell weapons, it's great. And we, until recently, didn't give a whit about our southern border. We only cared about Ukraine's border, but now that's changing, obviously. We're happy to see that Kristi Noem is there. And Tucker said, it is unequivocal that Ukrainian weapons are being purchased by other people and used for other reasons. He says, I know the person. I've talked to them about it. I can't tell you who it is, but it's happening. And I completely believe it. Is it outside the realm of possibility that weapon systems are leaving the Ukrainian battlefield and going elsewhere? What? Why would that be a thing? It isn't. Kristi Noem, great to see her out there.